Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience Before the Pour, aka 20 Questions to MJ. My guest today is founder and owner of Booker, one of Paso Robles' legendary artisanal, they're making me slow down, artisanal cult wineries, Eric Jensen. Eric and his wife Lisa purchased 100 acres of property in Paso Robles in 2001 with the intent of growing the best fruit for some of the best wineries in the area. After making wine with Justin Smith of Saxum for 5 years and Stephan Asseo, Stephan
Asseo.
Asseo, okay. And this is like the warm up. So Stephan, that's right, he's French. We'll get into that, why he moved to Paso Robles. Of Lava Shore Wines for 2 years, the Jensens decided it was time to create their own expression with Booker Vineyard. The 2005 vintage was Booker's first release, with some of the wines being made by Eric himself. The vineyard recently received its organic certification in April of 2021. Welcome, Eric.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Very cool to see you again. So what we do here on my podcast, to warm us up a bit, I'm going to start by asking you some personal questions, followed by James Lipton's famous 10 questions from inside the actor's studio.
I'm going to ask you a quick question, man. That dude right there looks like a professor or a Wall Street financier.
Yeah.
I mean, that is buttoned up.
That was 2019.
Shit
changes.
Did you go through hair and makeup? Because I'm looking at you now, my guy.
Shit changes. All right. That's definitely going to make Before the Pour highlights. All right, man. So listen, the keys to answer them quickly. First thing comes top of your head. It's not really a test, but we're going to have some fun with the answers. You ready?
I'm a college dropout, so be nice, man.
All right. What's your favorite book?
Shoe Dog?
Oh, okay. That's the Nike one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see that. I could totally see that. What's your favorite movie?
Godfather?
Right on. Who is your favorite musical artist, group, band, singer?
It's an impossibility, but I'll throw out Pink Floyd.
Okay. What's your favorite food, last meal? What's Eric having?
Shit, you're asking me questions like the book. There's too many.
It's only 20.
Damn.
You have 15 more.
I don't, pasta. It's impossible. I don't like these questions.
It's not impossible. I literally have had people like have food pairings. Like, I don't give these questions out, but people came, I'd have this with my first course with this champagne. I was like, what the? You're ready to die.
Yeah, I do. I do something with white truffles or black truffles.
There you go. Yeah, someone else said pasta with just some truffles. Simple.
Yeah.
Favorite athlete?
Either probably Kobe or MJ.
Very nice. Favorite cartoon as a child?
Speed Racer.
Nice. Favorite cereal to eat while watching Speed Racer?
Count Chocula.
Nice. I didn't have sugary cereals at home, so I'm jealous. Anybody who had like Chocula or Boo Berry or Captain Crunch. It was like cornflakes, Raisin Bran.
It wasn't often, man. We didn't have any loot, so when you had that, it was like something special. It was like 25 cents more,
Totally. What's your current exercise routine? Well, you have shoulder. What was your exercise routine before you hurt your shoulder?
I still work out 7 days a week,
Okay.
even with it. Like today, I slept basically until this because I got really banged up last night. But when I get home back to the hotel, I'll go straight to the gym. So I work out every day. I'll do 20 on the Peloton and then
nice.
Try to rehab a little bit.
Cool. Who is your favorite comedian?
I'm watching the comedy. I just finished the Comedy Store too. Probably Richard Pryor.
Nice.
But again, no clear favorite. Just like the athletes, no clear.
Yeah. Okay. Who would you most like to have a bottle of wine with? And they could be historical figure, dead, alive.
Oh, I'd have to do it. I'd have to go way back. I was going to say alive would probably be Barack Obama, but if I go back, it would have to be, you know, like a Ben Franklin, the cats that, you know, were inventing shit, creating the country,
Yeah.
you know, drinking.
And drinking wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd have to be probably, you know, it'd probably be someone like that.
Nice. Okay, Eric, now we're going to move into the questions that James Lipton made famous on Inside the Actors Studio. Eric, what is your favorite word?
Fuck.
And then what is your least favorite word?
I can't say it. It's 2 words. My least favorite word. Fuck James Lipton, man. I don't know. Dude, are we supposed to have a least favorite word?
A lot of people do.
Do you have one?
You know what the most popular least favorite word, which I don't get. Like I've had this at least. Okay, this is like you're number 54, but this is an inordinate amount of people who don't know each other. Their least favorite word is moist. I've had like 8 guests.
Females hate the word moist.
It wasn't even just female. It was dudes too. I'm
Really?
like, yeah. But you know, so the last guest, were you here for Brooke? Yeah. She's like, she hates the word moist so much she can't even look at a cake box. She says, I see Betty Crocker super moist and I run down out the aisle.
I've been scolded so many times about using that word.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
the cake was moist.
Yeah.
Women don't like it.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Dudes don't seem to have a problem.
I know.
with it.
That's what
So,
I
no,
know. That's why I'm like, well, I like.
So
When
it's
they- when
not
they-
my least favorite word.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what turns you on?
Females?
Okay. What turns you off?
Nights when my wife doesn't like me, which is a lot of them.
Yeah, I had one of those last night. I feel you. I was like, you know, this is like the worst day ever. I know that feeling. What sound or
Call
noise?
it months when she doesn't.
Oh, okay. I hope I don't go that far. What sound or noise do you love?
I'd say just some of the freaky sounds from a Pink Floyd wall hit,
Yeah.
which it could be any one of the trippy, you know.
I think I'm gonna go home and listen to Pink Floyd tonight. Yeah, Dark Side of the Moon.
Hit a blunt and
Yep.
listen to Floyd.
There you go. What sound or noise do you hate?
Fucking cars honking and sirens when I'm in New York City trying to sleep.
Yeah, welcome to New York City. Welcome to New York City. Yeah, because, well, you lived in L.A., but we'll get into that. But, like, it's not a lot of horns honking out in Paso.
Yeah, no. You hear a honking horn, you better get your gun and walked over to the door because it ain't supposed to be there.
What's your favorite curse word?
Same. Fuck.
Yeah, I knew that. Once when people say what's their favorite word, if they say fuck in the beginning, I know what their favorite curse word is going to be. It's like,
You watch Succession? So the main actor, he's a kind of he's a Broadway's an English guy. I forget what his name.
oh
is.
yeah. But he's
really a Broadway
Yeah,
type
yeah,
actor.
yeah.
He's a
the
he's
son who is fight. Yeah.
He's a play kid. He says it's hilarious. I watch it just to hear him say it. All right, then fuck off. Yeah, he tells the president. He tells everybody. All right, get the fuck out of here. You know, kids, women, children.
I do love Succession, but like I flip my subscription back and forth, so I was on Showtime, but now Succession's back on, so I got to get back on HBO.
It's trippy. They're such good actors. They freak me out. The
That's
son
a good
is.
show. Kieran Culkin's good.
He trips me out though. It's hard to watch him in his talk, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a very uncomfortable watch. The shit that these guys
Well,
say.
it was, and especially when he was like hitting on the older woman, he wanted to be his dominant. It was
Very
weird.
uncomfortable.
That was weird,
Yeah.
dude. It was like
He's
weird,
relentless.
dude.
He doesn't-
And he was like,
But the oldest son that's fighting him, his insecurity makes me so uncomfortable. It's always,
Yeah.
it's
It's a good show. All right. So what profession, other than your own, would you? Did I ask this one already?
Want to be?
No. Okay. Yeah. What profession other than would you like to attempt? Yeah. Would you want to be other than badass winemaker?
NFL quarterback.
Oh, nice. Dude, I love that. Like people come with some like lawyer. I like, I'm like, that's dope.
Come on, man. Lawyer. I hate lawyers.
So do I. That's why I didn't become one. What profession would you not like to do?
Lawyer. Legal. Bloodsuckers.
And lastly, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome in. Let's party. Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Well, listen, this is going to be a hot-ass episode. I could tell already. We've already been talking about succession and shit. So if you guys want more Eric, and I know you do, make sure you tune into our episode of the Black Wine Guy Experience. Peace. Hey, everybody, what's up? It's your boy, MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guest today is founder and owner of Booker Vineyards, one of Paso Robles' legendary artisanal cult wineries, Eric Jensen. Eric and his wife, Lisa, purchased 100 acres of property in Paso Robles in 2001 with the intent of growing the best fruit for some of the best wineries in the area. After making wine with Justin Smith of Saxum for 5 years and Stephan Asseo of L'Aventura Wines for 2 years, the Jensens decided it was time to create their own expression and started Booker Vineyards. The 2005 vintage was their first release, with the wines being made by Eric himself. And since that time, they've gone on to receive a number of accolades. And most recently, the vineyard received its organic certification in April of 2001. Welcome, Eric. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think this white we're drinking got a little heat damage. It's got like the pre-mox a little bit more than it should. So I thought I'd add that to you. And it's basically fucking hot. So that kind of
it's definitely not cellar temperature. But it was funny. Actually, maybe pre-mox, but so why don't you intro the wines we have? And then
so we got a white because the wines that I shipped to you did not get there. So this white.
Yeah, we had supply chain issues with getting the samples here.
We sent it 2 to 10 days ago.
I know. What the fuck?
So the 16, so what I do, and the reason the color is usually not quite this gold, but you got obviously some gold color here, is I leave the Viognier and the skins for anywhere. And 16, I think I did maybe 21 days. So you get really leaches out that color and it gets phenolic-y. So it's definitely a wine you want to probably drink a little bit colder. Like I'd say 55 at least, not 78 like it is. This one is. But yeah, so that's the white.
Wait, but it's a blend. So
it's a Roussanne base.
Okay, I thought so. I was getting that Roussanne richness. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Roussanne base, Viognier, a tad of Marsanne, and was 16 the first year I added a little Chard, or was that 17? That was 17. So Viognier with a Roussanne base, and a touch of Marsanne, which is where you also get that heavy Hermitage weight. Mm-hmm. And then we've got Oublier, and I believe it's 15. The extended age, maybe 22 or 24 months. So that's a Grenache-based wine. It's Grenache Merveille. And in 16, I don't remember what I put in this thing. Let's see what the fuck we put in this thing. We put 38 Merveille, 30 Grenache, and 9 Counois, and
a little Counois.
A little bit of Syrah, yeah.
Wow.
The forgotten one is what Oublier means, to forget. So in France. Very fancy I am with
that's schmancy.
And the white, I couldn't think of a name, and I still haven't been able to think of a name 20 years later, so it's just called white.
Well, it's white. It's descriptive. It's got a white capsule, nice white label. It's very simple, so definitely we're going to do this for when we do our little clips on social media.
You saying don't touch the fucking wine?
No, man, I'm just spinning it around, bro.
I got you.
You brought the wine. It's your wine. You made the wine. Shit. It's basically your wine. Thanks for sharing. So, you've listened to at least one or two of my podcasts. So, I like to start at the beginning. So I'm going to go biggie, so where are you from?
Outside of LA, San Dimas, California.
Okay.
Little tiny town, lower middle class family, 9 bodies, stuffed in 1,000 square feet. Great family. My dad still lives at the vineyard with me now.
Okay.
Him and my brother. My brother is Booker's best employee, and yeah.
So San Dimas, how far outside of LA is that? Because people are
30 minutes. It's near.
So it's like 2 miles.
Yeah, exactly. From our house on a clear, non-smoggy day, which is rare. When I was a kid, you used to have smog alerts. Here, are my eyes still bloodshot?
Yeah, you had a good night last
And
night.
I've added more. I added a half a bottle to them, and it's not seeming to work. I went late. I woke up drunk, and I took a sip of this. I'm just like right back in.
It's like, okay, good, okay.
Last night was a big night at Crown Shy. Kristen, the Psalm, was a night off, and she rolled in. We were going so large, someone else was paying. So when you're buying, I'm going big. And she got off her couch, which is in the financial district, and her and her boyfriend rolled their asses in and grabbed some glasses and started drinking with us. So I'm banged up. So be nice to me. You're fucking already asking me all these quick questions and like.
Oh, they'd
have like 1,000 answers to them. Like, what's your favorite food? You know, and I don't know. I had Bronzino for lunch yesterday. I had short ribs and Wagyu and some Dorado for dinner last night.
Oh, so. Very nice. Well, shit, like.
You would have lost for words now? Did I stump you?
No, not at all.
You want me to start asking the fucking questions?
No fucking way. So tell us what you have last night, because he came in. I'm banged up. Look what I had. And put it on his phone. So like what'd you have last? What is Eric Jensen, winemaker, owner? Well, yeah, owner. Well, we'll get into like the guy who started Booker. When you come to New York, how do you roll? That you make a psalm on a night off, roll uptown with her boyfriend and grab some glasses. How are you guys putting it down last night?
We started with, I think, it could have been a Krug Rosé, and then it was a Filipinot. I had never even heard of this wine, and it's from a single parcel. So like within 1 hectare,
yeah.
It's from like the middle of that 1 hectare. It's their most special bottle. And Jeff Mizell, our GM, he's a New Yorker. He knows champagne as well as anybody, and he sussed it out and saw it, and then the Psalms all got on it. So you got to get this, because I was looking for Salon. You know, I'm just a simple ho.
I'm just a simple. Just give me,
just give me that green bottle with the S. And they said, "Oh no, man, you got to do this." So we did that, and then we broke in and it got dirty. They started with the 2000 Latache DRC. Had 17 Romany Saint Vivant. I don't want to fucking hear anybody say, "Oh, it's a baby killer." Blah blah. That's the biggest line of bullshit. That wine has to be old to drink. That was made up by the fucking French and the British press because their wines were too tannic and too aggressive, and they didn't know how to fucking make. You know, they were maybe going to war or something, so they were pulling shit off and over extracting tannins. They didn't understand that tannins were the gift that kept giving, and so yeah, you had to wait 20 years. To even get near the wine. But in today's world, if you can't make a wine drinkable off the bottling truck that also can age for 30 years, as we're drinking my golden Primox fucking white.
Listen, I'm gonna have a little. I might have a little more taste of them. I'm gonna take that home and chill it down, and then I'll give you the skinny on it. But I agree with what you said. Like we had a guest come on 2 weeks ago. He brought a 2019. Von Romanée from I want to say Drouin, and like part of it, one of the parcels in it like abuts Latache, but the 2019 it was delicious out the gate. So it was like obviously an age, but I would drink it young because it just was the fruit was there, it was silky, tannins all integrated.
Well, how many times do cats like me and you that are in the business roll to a party and everyone wants to show off? And they open old bottles. Disappoint 9 out of 10 times. So 9 out of 10.
It really is true. It's like wah 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 wah. Yep. Like the Price is Right? Like literally, it's like like 9 out of 10 times without a doubt. I'm like, then you're sitting around saying, oh, it's held this. I'm like, no, I just want to drink this shit when it was in its pocket. I don't want to be stretching.
We're glorifying. Oh, it still has fruit.
Yeah, I don't want to have to find that shit. I want to search for it, man.
Yeah, that's such a joke about our aristocratic business, and what you do is great. I love listening to you, and I mean, you have that great knowledge, but you're not afraid to throw down like that and just be honest, because This is the 1% of 1% businesses, and I'm trying to make this 100% business.
Right.
Everyone should be drinking wine.
Right.
But when we, jerk off and sit there and, this needs 15 more years, and, you can't open this. Now, the Barolo we had last night, Barolo is very acidic, right? They can't get rid of the acid.
Right. It's in the grape.
With Barbaresco and Barolo. So that's kind of a wine that, you're going to get a little bit more pleasure because it won't be so acidic. But for the most part, even there, we've all been told. And so you get the normal Joe on the street corner, they just want to drink wine. They don't want to sit here and dissect the damn thing. And that's what I hate about this business, that we're told what to like. Last night at the dinner table, I talked shit when I thought shit was warranted to talk about the wines that were there. And these guys are all, what are you talking about? I'll have it. And I go, good, have it, because I ain't having any more. Glorifying tired-ass wines, bready wines. Like, all right, man, let's go.
So I love it. So like you said, and a lot of times people, like, it is like a 1% of 1%, like when you're talking about fine wine. I think a lot of people don't even understand how crazy it is, But you said, like you said, there wasn't a lot of coin in your house. You grew up kind of poor, never going to nice restaurants. And I think, when we were warming up, you're a college dropout, right? So, like, you went to Cal State Fulton. How long did you go to Cal State Fulton?
To be honest, bro, it might have been 6 years. It could have been 7. It could have been 6 or 7. It was wild. And finally, I just couldn't pass math because I didn't go to class. And so when you
at least
when you don't go to class, then you're going to write out your whole problem.
I thought he was going to say
write out
like
the whole answer
or something. He's like, no, I just had to get past. I had to go to
No, math was always like an 8 o'clock class. And I never had any precedent to get like the 12 o'clock class. So it was the calculus that was needed to graduate with a business degree. 8 o'clock. Shit, I slept till noon. 8 o'clock class. I was a night class cat.
Did you ever see?
They never had it at night.
Yeah, they're not, because the math teacher's corny as fuck. He's not trying to. He's not teaching at night. Did you ever see? It's called PCU from the early '90s. Jeremy Piven, fucking funny movie. But there's a line there. He's like, he got suckered into being a freshman tour guide, and he's like, here's what you need to know. Class is nothing before noon or anything on Friday.
Yeah. It's a fact. I didn't have a Friday class in 7 years. If it was actually 7, it could have been 6.
Oh my God. I had a class, speaking of never going to class, I had this class where it was my senior year and on my 6-year plan, and I only had I only needed like 15 credits or some shit. I was like, no, I needed 2 classes, whatever the fuck that was. But I had to like register for like 3 to get my financial aid. So I registered for like swimming, but that shit was like 9 o'clock in the morning. So I dropped that as soon as I could. And I had this one class, and it was in my major. And that motherfucker, I forget, maybe it was on a Thursday. It was on a Thursday. But basically, I didn't go for the first 6 weeks, Eric, right? And I show up in class, right? And the professor goes, I swear to God, he goes, who the fuck are you? I said, I'm MJ Taylor. I'm in this class. He's like, the fuck you are? You haven't been here in 6 weeks.
Walk your ass right back out of here. Oh, that's funny.
I gotta be. He ended up loving me, but I was like, who the fuck are you? He stopped the whole class.
Yeah, that's pretty unprecedented. 6 weeks. Yeah. I don't know if I can top that.
Man, ugh.
I at least had the damn decency to pop my head in occasionally, see if there's any good-looking women in there.
Well, you know what it was. But here's how I was able to say. I said, well, actually, it's 4 weeks because there was the King holiday. It was like a holiday one day, and then we had 2 holidays during that time period. So there was no class. So I actually only missed 4 weeks. So he's like, okay, motherfucker. I got my eye.
Which could have been 12 classes, though.
I know. All right, so Cal State Fulton, it took you 7 years, but is that was it in college when you started discovering food and wine? What was what happened in college?
We in New York especially, you guys have no concept of what I went through when it comes to food, because you have food on every corner, and you didn't always, not finer dining. But in San Dimas, there was like one restaurant. It was a breakfast diner. So we never went out. We went out for birthdays, right? If someone, or no, excuse me, graduations. When someone graduated from high school, we would go to like Sizzler and I always everybody had to order off the kids' meal, even the adults. My mom and dad were the only two, and my mom would just, get a salad and like load up on breadsticks or whatever that,
Mm-hmm.
And so we just never, I probably went out 4 times in my life. And then finally I went to a restaurant. So I hated wine in college. I just, I drank shots and beer or whatever because I'd never had a good wine.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and dad liked really good wine, but since they couldn't afford it, they just didn't drink it unless someone else was visiting for like Thanksgiving or something, which has led me to end up making Harvey and Harriet my $30, pretty fucking sweet Cabernet-based wine. And I went to a restaurant called Bertolucci's. I still see it in South San Francisco. I see the sign. I haven't been back in. And dudes are wearing tuxes. Now, in hindsight, they were probably all dirty.
Yeah, it was grimy,
it was just
sweaty, like nasty tux.
Yeah.
It was like their uniform. Motherfuckers
To
didn't wash
see
it.
anybody in a tux, I was like, damn. And I started with like a Nazzol or a gold label Ducale Italian wine that my buddy's dad, who drank a bottle of wine every single night of his life, and got me into wine, Joe Zerwinski. And having that bottle that night changed my life. And everyone says, what was your aha? Man, fuck, I don't know. I was like 23. I don't remember what it was. But after that, when I would roll to parties, I would roll with a bottle or two of wine.
Okay.
And cigars. But they were always cheap ass, like Swisher or something, dumbass.
Swisher Sweets.
I got into cigars, and I don't even know if you could call those cigars. I think fucking mint flavored something.
Tobacco products.
Yeah, tobacco.
Nicotine delivery systems.
But wine. So I would roll in to, banging party. Everyone's walking in with a case of beer, and I'm rolling in with, a bottle of wine. And so that was it. And at the same time, my light bulb in college went off. My get the hell out of here. What are you doing, man? I started going and listening to these business guys speak at the business school, guys and gals, and in the business club. And these guys I was mesmerized. I'd always follow them to their car, and I'd say, hey, can I go take you to lunch? And so wine and an acumen for business and to want to do better things in life kind of right at the same time.
Nice. So you drop out. What does a Cal State Fullerton dropout from San Dimas do?
Cold call.
Okay.
A fucking phone book. And I took this job. My friend said, dude, there's dudes making $100,000. And I'm like, what? Like my dad made $28,000 the year he retired. $100,000. And so I start cold calling for oil and gas limited partnerships. And I thought they were the greatest investments in the world. Like, I'm doing people favors. I need them to get on the phone with whoever I'm doing it for, whatever manager that I'm cold calling for, to try to get a package sent out. And I was just better than everybody. And you're calling people at dinner. Fuck you, don't you ever call this number again, click. So if you can get through that shit, I mean, you could take incoming in a foxhole.
You're basically Giovanni Ribisi in Boiler Room,
That's
your job is to get upset. Recco, like, can I send you a packet, but get them long enough, right?
100%. When you get a hot one on the line, you pass it off to somebody. And instead of passing off to somebody registered, I just started.
You did what Giovanni did.
Right there.
Exactly. You reeled them in.
And I did that for about a year, and I made a shit pile of money. But when I looked in the mirror and I finally started asking people about it and like, are these good investments? And when I realized they were dog shit, I couldn't live with myself.
Yeah.
I couldn't sleep at night. I got out of the business, walked away from making a shit pile of money, and realized I ain't good at this, man. I ain't good at handling people's money. And so at that point in my life, I said, I'm never handling people's money again. I don't want anything to do with it. I couldn't sleep. And, here you go from thinking you're doing the greatest, you're doing a service for people.
Right. Because that's what they tell. When the sales training is like, you are like when you're selling shit like that, you have to believe, unless you're a snake, like, you have to believe, like, you're helping people. This is going to pay off for their kids. They're going to put your kids through college. Blah blah blah. You have to believe that.
I really did believe that.
Yeah.
And when I then realized that if these things were ever going to work. It was so long-term and so speculative. And that I realized it finally when I realized the commission they were paying me. I'm like, wait a minute, man. If I'm getting 10%, that means 90, the boss has got to be getting something. So what goes to work? Are they starting the investment with like 80 cents going to work? that makes it very difficult, you know.
He's like, I might never went to math class in college.
Yeah.
But this math don't add up.
Yeah. This shit didn't add up. And so, you know, I'm not all that smart, but so yeah, I got the hell out and I went into the music business. I went into doing festivals. And
okay, so what year? What roughly what year was this about?
So I did outdoor festivals in probably 91, 90.
So you're
before they were cool. Like
exactly.
I was.
You're like when Lollapalooza was.
Oh no, yeah, I'm pre.
Yeah.
Perry. These cats weren't doing shit. I was doing outdoor festivals. I always ask my buddies. So I got a buddy out here in New York, Rich Schaefer at AEG Presents, Big Wig. I got Tom C. in LA, the president of Live Nation, festivals, and Mike Evans in Philly, all these hotshot guys that are on my list now. We become buddies. The music industry loves wine. The managers do because they haven't lost their right to drink yet. The bands, yeah. Booze don't work. And so I always ask them, the joke is, hey, man, you guys got a plaque of me up in the offices or anything? They're like, what? Like a brick in the... What are you talking about? I'm like, I took all the motherfucking losses so you guys could make money in this business. I paved the way finding out what not to do.
Right.
And then you guys came in and did it right. And so I ended up selling that business for like $1 million. And I thought I was going to retire. I didn't know what a burn rate meant, you know. I didn't know what. And so I'm
we got to take some steps, man. You're fucking selling oil and gas futures and shit, cold calling. Do that make some money. Then you go into concert promoting. Like you said, you made a lot of mistakes, but like, who are some of the people you worked with, man?
Well, so the reason I got in that business is I had money and I went to a celebrity sports invitational.
Okay. See, now we're talking. Now we're getting some stuff.
When I was young, see, you guys were still on the nipple.
No, we're the same age, man. Just black don't crack. That's all that is.
Yeah, that's true. You look 20 years younger than me.
But we're actually the same. I was doing the bad. We're about
But
the
you
same
didn't have
age.
the night that I had last
I did
night
not.
either. Can you guys mask my skin? Is there any airbrushing that goes on here? Can we? This bad Irish skin with booze don't mix. So I go to the Celebrity Sports Invitational. Marjo Gortner. And Marjo was an ex-televangelist, made a bunch of money.
Of course, a televangelist.
Selling religion.
Oh, my God.
And then he started doing these Celebrity Sports Invitational. When you and I were kids, you'd turn on ABC.
Oh, it was a
weekend.
Pro-Am, yeah.
Yeah, it would be
I remember
8
those.
is Enough versus Melrose Place
Yep.
versus, Beverly Hills 90210.
Yep.
They'd be doing jet ski races,
Yep.
volleyball. And so I go on one of those, and I'm hanging around with Gerardo Mejia, Rico Suave, O.J. Simpson, whatever you want to say, pre-knife, pre-slash,
1994.
but he's innocent. He's out, but a lot of those guys, Jim Kelly,
Oh my God,
Wolfman
Jim Kelly.
Jack, radio guy, Dick
this
Van
is
Patten.
all. This is like nostalgia.
They were all on the panel judging.
Okay.
I bought. So excuse me. Wait a minute. Back up. I buy an auction item to judge a Miss Hawaiian Tropic beauty pageant. And at this event, OJ's there. James Caan
figure.
from Godfather, of course. And
Go
Rollerball.
figure.
And I buy a seat for 8 G's to judge the International Miss Hawaiian Tropic. Don't ask me if it was a good investment. I'm just, that was a long time ago. I'm here to say it was a pretty solid investment.
Yeah, I mean, if you're here today,
and
it was probably a good investment.
I was single.
Exactly.
It was in Florida. Just, it was on the beach in Daytona. And so.
Was it during spring break?
It was spring break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually baller shit.
Baller shit. So I'm hanging around all these cats, and me and Gerardo became buddies, and so we hung out the whole time. And what I realized right there is this is my next calling. This guy, Ron Rice of Hawaiian, judging beauty pageants around the world. I can do this, I'm fairly uneducated. And so I realized, damn, this guy has it made. Ron Rice has all these other people paying for his event. So he's got Yamaha sponsoring. I'm sitting there with all these sponsors, John Paul Mitchell, hair care products, and I realize all these banners that are put up around the stage. And finally I asked the guy at Yamaha, he's the president, I said, what'd you pay? And he goes, we all pay about $10,000-$20,000. And the light bulb went off. I'm like, no one's doing this in any other industry. I'm going to do this in the music business. And so I start doing these festivals with these backdrops that say Bud Light and Glen Ellen wine. And I remember the bands coming on and their manager's like, what the hell is that? I'm like, did you get paid today? Yeah. Shut the fuck up and go perform. What are you worried about how I'm making money? I ain't making it off you. I can tell you that. And I remember managers are starting to call me like, what the fuck's going on? What are these banners? And so at that time, contractually, there was nothing that stopped it.
Right.
And so they started calling me into their offices to teach them how to do it. And that's when I saw the writing on the wall that once these guys started realizing they were going to tap into sponsors for their artists, it was going to change everything.
Yeah.
So that's when I got out of the business. I sold it, and I used that money to buy the piece of property. And then I was broke as hell. I didn't save any. I wasn't smart enough to buy a smaller piece and put some money aside to pay myself. So that led me to the vineyard. I sold that company and bought the piece of land and was broke as hell. Lived in a modular home with babies and worked 7 days a week for about 5 years.
So, and that was around like 2001-ish. Yeah, right. So, what did your like music people think when you're like, first of all, you're down in LA, right? And I think I read somewhere, like, you had it. You had the house like in Beverly Hills and shit. Newport. That's right, Newport, which is super dope. But you had somebody said you had a pool boy, you had a gardener, and then like you fucking moved. Like, first of all,
well, slow down on the pool boy. I just had a guy to clean the pool once a week.
I don't mean pool boy in the '80s movie pool boy connotation.
Yeah, because that kind of connotation. He was sleeping with my wife.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly, right. For you guys who are a little younger listening, you should watch. Was that with Delivery Boy? All those 80 movies
where it was good to be a gardener,
exactly,
and a pool boy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sancho, they call that in Mexico.
Right.
Dad leaves out the front door. Sancho comes in the back.
Oh, that's right. That's now it all makes sense. That's the Sublime song, Sancho.
Yeah. Bust the cap. I'll put it in Sancho's eyes. What I really want to know, my baby.
What I really want to say.
Dirty Heads were just in. They did that tour with Sublime. They were in Paso. Dirty Heads, these guys, they are studs. Badass band. I mean, come on, it's fucking reggae. It's its own sound in Long Beach.
It is. That whole sound, having lived in California, like, I don't know if people in New York can get it, but like, it's fucking dope. You're there, you're faded, you're smoking weed. It is the perfect, like, it's nice. There's palm trees. Like, it is like one of the most unique music experiences.
Well, I was sitting with Dirty Heads that come into the winery, and they're just all they wanted to do was ask questions because their show was that night. They were doing 2 back-to-back nights, and I'm like, you guys know you're the first musicians that actually still get to drink that have come here. I get a lot of musicians, but they're with their wife, and they're sober as shit, and their wives are drinking, but they lost their card. And they're like, yeah, that's the great thing, other than what's his name, the Sublime singer who OD'd and died. He's all, that's our business was never, it was just weed. And so like we have longevity, and these guys were getting on, I don't know how old they were, man, they were so fucking cool, but they all looked 35. That band been around a long time.
Right.
And
well, you have to stop partying if you're going to be a musician.
They were pros.
Yeah, because like you're like that's like fucking looking good. I'm like, shit, dude. Like, look at Lenny Kravitz's little ass, man. He looks the same. Clean living. Although he does drink champagne. He drinks some shit, but he's probably gets his blood changed. Don't sue, but like, I don't know.
Keith. I was watching Keith's documentary the other night, and he was still drinking. I forget who it was. Hooker's gone. Buddy Guy asked him, "Hey man, can you still drink?" And he goes, yeah. I'm like, no, I want to jump through the TV. He can't fucking drink. Look at the guy.
No.
Like, but he drank with him. And everyone says, oh, no, he doesn't drink. I'm like, bullshit. he sipped whatever the moonshine that Buddy pulled out was. I think it was Buddy in that scene. They're shooting pool and just drinking.
So, Paso Robles, people who follow my IG feed and listen to the show, I do have a lot of love for Paso Robles. Central Coast, and then Paso Robles has really come a long way, because when I lived out there, it was still young and it hadn't really found its footing. But why? What about Paso Robles? Why would you move from Newport Beach to Paso Robles in 2001?
First
What's
of all,
wrong with you, man?
I keep messing with my wrist here because I don't want to show, so I'm just going to come out with it. I got a Rolex on. So I've had this Rolex since I was like in my 20s, and my buddy was going to buy it a couple months ago for $5,000. I'm like, yeah, I never wear it. And my daughter went and got it appraised, and it's $31,000. I was giving this wine to a dude for 5 Gs. That's how fucking smart I am. That goes back to the Fullerton days.
Yeah, because I said you don't want to handle other people's money. Maybe you shouldn't handle your own. Good
And
thing you have
so-
a daughter.
Yeah, probably not. And so we come to New York, and I'm like, fuck, this thing doesn't button, so I got to bring it. And now that I know what it's worth, I'm afraid to leave it in the hotel room. And so I'm wearing it, but I don't want to be a douchebag, and show the watch. So
That's
I keep
hilarious.
fiddling because it's too big. And the Rolex shop did button it. They fixed it. They tightened it. It took them like 2 seconds. Paso Robles. Paso's the shit, man. If you don't know about Paso, see, all Paso used to be known as was uber high alcohol, overripe.
Yep.
And like Jeb just talked shit to me like, oh, Eric Jensen's changing his style. He's getting more finesse and elegant with his 19s and 18s. It's like, what, because I don't fucking want 16 alcohol? I'm done hearing about balance. I'm old. And yes, you can make 16 balance. You can make 15
You can totally make it
balance. But my body doesn't give a fuck if it's balanced. I'm all of 153, and I'm 54, and I just can't handle the booze anymore. So I made a conscious decision to use double-sided shade cloth and bring the booze down in my wines. And so now I'm getting people talking shit because it's 14.5. It's like, hey, listen, that's still a lot of fucking booze, man.
Yeah.
14 to 14.5 ain't light.
That's not like.
But anyway, so Paso is the shit. There's so many young winemakers there, male and female, that are doing shit that is as good or better than Booker. I'm just going to call it straight out. I mean, Paso's just dope as hell. I mean, everybody's cool. You know this about Paso.
Yeah.
There's no aristocracy. It's a bunch of people that have no money. It's a place for dreamers.
It
right?
is like who was I talking to this about the other day? Oh, Liz. You know Liz from I don't even know her vineyard. I stayed there when I was in Paso. That's the thing with Paso. You gotta listen. Don't try and drink with the Paso Robles, because you'll get. There's literally a thing called the Paso shakes, because the wines are high octane, but they are in balance. Most of them now, and that was the problem early on. And when I was in Santa Barbara, when I lived there from like '99 to 2010, like they were changing, but like you get some of that early stuff from Paso, with the exception of like the Pioneers, like. Shit was just flabby.
The Zins were disgusting.
They were disgusting. Yeah, they weren't good wines.
A lot of them were still sweet, no acid, so
Yeah.
totally flabby. And we did have some great pioneers that paved the way for us. And now this next generation is like, I mean, they're dirty. Like this shit. And they're charging $40, $50, $65, and you're like, why are you doing that to me, man? Raise your damn price.
Right.
Like, let's get going.
Yeah.
And but Paso, like I said, it's for dreamers. It's for everybody that wants to be in the business but couldn't afford the hoity-toityness of Napa or Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
And that's the people there. The rich people have priced out all the kind of cool cats. All the people that really.
Yeah. No doubt. I agree. I mean. People get mad, but I mean, Napa, yes, there are still some small family wineries in Napa. There are, but by and by, it's like I made money in tech. I'm going to Napa. I'm going to put out a $400 cab.
And then they tell my friends that are making the wine, just give me 100 points. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go. It's douchebaggery, The Napa winemakers are fucking great guys.
Yeah.
And my friends that own wineries are normal dudes.
Right.
That are owners.
Like I said, there are people, who still own, but like by and by. And that's the thing with Paso Robles, like you said, was like it was like at the time, and now things are starting to change, but it was a place for dreamers. Like you could still afford to buy some land, you know what I mean? And like regular people, like you started working, Justin Smith taught you how to make wine, you know what I mean?
And shit, he didn't really know what he was doing.
Right.
He told me to go to Stephan.
Yeah.
He goes, man, I just know what I know from making it with my dad and from doing some stuff at Wild Horse, and then me and Matt started Lenny Colado. But yeah, I can't be your winemaker. I can't. You got to go to Stephan Asseo. Stephan's formerly trained in Bordeaux and Saint-Emilion, and like, hey man, you got to go to him. That's how unsure Justin Smith of Saxum was.
Yeah.
And
but even that point, like they were regular people. Like Mark Adams, MCA, that's my boy. Like he was like, he said, listen, land was cheap in Paso Robles in the 70s. My parents just made a good purchase. It wasn't like they paid like, $70K for a ranch in the 70s, right? Like that's just a good purchase. Like, it's probably what my dad paid for our house with $70K, you know what I mean? So, but like you got, but regular people moved up there,
Oh yeah. And listen, the history of Napa's that way. When you go to a lot of those older people, they just made it famous, and thank God for the winemakers there, because they still make Napa badass, because the winemakers are still just salt of the earth people up there. But Paso, the difference was that we could all borrow money to own our own land.
Right.
We were just lucky enough to find a place that was so badass, had soil that was, had this incredible amount of calcareous and siliceous shale in most cases. There's some great Cabernet sites that are a lot more clay, and had this diurnal swing where we have these cold nights where the plant shuts down and doesn't grow, so we still retain this acid that nobody in the world gets. And we realized pretty quickly what a unbelievable special place. This wine, both these wines, I think got hot. Maybe, yeah, they're both a little bit. I think I'm gonna check the corks. They both, to me, sound like they got a little bit of heat in transit. But anyway, so this is Oubliette 22 month from 15, which was already in the state of California, a very oxidative year.
Okay.
So if y'all got 15s from Napa, Santa Barbara, California, those are early drinkers. We were coming out of we're at the tail end of a severe drought. So this fruit actually started oxidizing on the vine. I started blowing up phones about halfway through aging, talking to Benoit Touquet and Tony Biaggi up in Napa, talking to Jordan Fiorentini at Epic, a lot of people, and saying, hey man, how are your 15s aging in barrel? And they're like, fuck, we're getting nervous. We might bottle early. Talked to Justin. Everyone started going, they're badass wines, but we're going to get them off early, because these wines do not want to hang out in barrel for 2 or 3 years. These wines want to jump in. And problem with that was the severe drought the state was having. So these wines, actually, the grapes, I walked backwards with 2 scientists, Bruce Zucklin, Mark Batney, and then another guy, Mark Greenspan, top water guy in the state, and we kind of surmised that it's not really what we did in the winery with too much air or oxygen. It was really the process started on the vine in 2015. So if you got 2015s, I'd probably 16 to 14 ago, 14 to go 40 years. But if you got 15s, it's probably a pretty sweet window for them.
Yeah, and actually, I was just checking it out. Like even year 2015, this is only 14.5. It's like,
yeah, in Oubliette, we always want to be 14.5. I again, this is no knock, and I used to make 15.5. Everything of mine was, my sweet spot was 15.2.
Yeah.
But just for me, it's the older I get, I just can't handle the booze, and I like to drink so much. I don't like to be drunk.
Yeah.
Last night I was fucking gassed. I mean, I'm in a bar in the financial district drinking some mezcal fucking tequila drink.
Oh, you had one of those nights
at 1:30.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we had all this great wine. Now let's do hard stuff.
Yeah, let's do a paper plane and then some tequila drink. I ought not have been where I was. Kristen and her boyfriend dragged me out with them, and the financial district isn't booming at 1 in the morning.
Hell no.
The sidewalks are rolled up, and we rolled into some cool little bar, and it was just all individual, like where the fuck are these people coming from? They all just kind of got off work, you know. And then there was one dude that didn't work, and that's for another conversation with me and you. But anyways, yeah, so it was a late-ass night. And then I lost my glasses, so I couldn't call Lyft. And so Kristen's boyfriend had to call Lyft for me. And then when I got home, they were in my pocket. I looked for those damn glasses for 3 hours. Went back to Crown Shy.
That's awesome.
Looking, I got the whole restaurant looking at our tables. Those fucking glasses were in my fucking pocket. Right in my jacket pocket. I couldn't have missed these things.
You know what? That's a good point to take a quick break. And we'll be right back with more Eric Jensen.
Before we dive back in, will you just make sure you're answering most of your questions to MJ? I'm just worried we're losing some of your face when you're looking over at me.
Your smile's so beautiful.
I know.
I
know. See, better looking at me. It's okay.
Can I run?
Yeah, go ahead. Go. We've never had them before, but it's fine. We'll just edit it out. No, you're fine. And once you're in here, you're fine. Yeah.
Out of control.
Told you.
So funny.
This is gonna be a great one.
Oh my God, so forthcoming.
Yeah.
Great.
He's
Still
just
on stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that he's saying.
I know because he keeps looking. I know it's. So what he can do is he could shade the mic a little bit. Like if we shade the mic, like that. There you go. There we go. I shade the mic a little
All
bit.
right, perfect. So funny though. I know exactly what he's talking about, making the entire restaurant look for something when it's literally on your body.
All right. So we're back. We had our first ever potty break on the Black Wine Guys. These California boys, they can't go. New York, we just go. We just come here for fucking 2 hours and go, E.
Slow your fucking roll, man. I got the bladder of a 9-year-old.
We go. All right. So you were quoted as saying, Paso is raw, legit, and without pretension. You come around next, and I'll be around here, and you'll be alienated in a day. Talk about that. He's
Well,
like,
that gold roll-
I said that?
That gold Rolex I was wearing, I wore that into town the first night. And Chris Cherry looked at me at the dinner table at Via Creek, and he goes, bro, turn the watch down. Like his gold watch shining. I'm like, what a fucking douche I am, you know. Put that watch in the drawer for 20 more years. If it had been in the drawer before that, I don't know why the hell I wore it. But, yeah, and by the way, I rolled into town with a Mercedes-Benz, and I sold it to an attorney the next day. Called my buddy Dez and said, Dez, you were looking for a car, right? He goes, yeah. I go, take the Mercedes out my hands. I got a dirty old truck. The dirtiest one I could find, a Dodge. A thing sounded like it was crushing rocks. It was so loud. Dodge diesel. And even today, I have an electric car, but I still drive a
motherfucker,
dirty
you
truck.
rolled up for our interview in your Tesla, but that's okay.
I got the cheap-ass Tesla. That thing's
But
$38K.
I know, but it's green too, though, so it's good. And you're
No, mine's white.
I know, but it's green. It's a green car. It's electric.
Oh yeah. I have.
He was a little banged up last night, right? He's like, it's white. I know what color it is.
Yeah, we're off the grid at Booker. So
Yeah,
everything's
right.
on solar.
So that's
the houses,
fine,
the
yeah.
wells, and so I had to get one, and I got the cheap one, motherfucker. I still drive that beat up ass truck, but yeah, I do have a Tesla.
So let's talk about the property in Paso. You had a little bit of a false start. Like you bought some you went over, you bought some property, and what happened?
Again, Chris Cherry. Justin was laying it out. Justin didn't have the huevos to fucking tell me that it was the wrong property, and so he's laying it out, designing it, and finally I'm in the bar one night, and Chris goes, "Are you sure that you got the right property? Because you're gonna be the guy. Like, we're counting on you to develop this and badass project." He called it the Jensen project. We're counting on you to help put Paso on the map with Matt Trevison, with following Gary Eberly and Justin Baldwin on the west side at Justin Wines. We're counting on you to, this is going to be important. Is that property going to get you there? And I'm like, holy shit, I don't know.
Is that what are you saying, motherfucker? Tell me, spit it out.
Well, I kind of started to think that way because I was really heavily studying soil science with Justin's dad, Pebble Smith, working with him a lot, calling him every day, reading every book I could get my hands on. But Justin's dad was very influential in my farming side of things.
Okay.
Him and my current viticulturist, Hillary Graves, her husband, Simon, man, I used to call these guys off the hook. But as I started learning about what soils were doing the best in Paso, I quickly realized then, after Chris said that this piece did not have that. It was going to be a higher pH wine because the pH on the soil was so low. It was fertile. It was going to be the soil was going to retain a lot of water, so we were going to have a heavy canopy, probably a heavy set, and it was just going to be difficult. Didn't mean I couldn't make good wine out of it, but couldn't get to where I am now. And then the second we pulled onto what was in the Booker Trust from these two orphan brothers, right when we pulled into that property, me and Justin with legendary real estate rancher and real estate guys ranch and do real estate there, Hugh Pitts, R.I.P. Me and Justin looked at each other, smiled, and said, "We're good. This is it."
Yeah. So you just said something that just spawned a question, and you said Paso was actually counting on you, putting him on the map. Was that because of your experience as a promoter? Did you have a reputation like this guy, Eric Jensen? He knows how to sell shit. Why was the Jensen project so important to people?
Well, first of all, let's walk back any arrogance that comes out of that statement.
I don't think it was arrogant, by the way. I love your humility. I don't think it was arrogant, but go ahead.
They were counting on, I should preface that. They were counting on me and a couple, LaVenture with Stephan. They were counting on what Justin, him and Matt Trevison had split, and Matt kept Lenny Collado. Justin wanted to create this brand called Saxum, which I thought, that's the horrible name. But like any name, Senequanon was a horrible name when he first came out with it. But once it's badass and cold wine, you're like, oh, that's a great
Oh, yeah.
name.
I see why you did that.
But I mean, it's Saxum. It sounds horrible. It's like, what the? And so I was important to these guys, hey, we can't keep getting it wrong here.
Got it.
These guys saw the vision and where it was going. And so, the group that hung out a lot was Scott Hawley, it was Justin Smith, it was Scott of Torrin, it was Chris Cherry, myself, and there was another guy, Matt Garrettson, who ended up going in a different direction. He's on the distribution side now, I believe in Minnesota. But these were important projects to not screw up for Paso going where we all wanted it to go.
Right, because like I said before, it was hit or miss in Paso except for a few people, right? So, but so you also just mentioned something about the Booker Trust or some orphan brothers. So wine is all about the stories. So what's the story behind Booker?
Two orphan brothers adopted at 10 and 12 as strong backs for a woman that's husband was probably already diagnosed with cancer. I'm not 100% sure it's hard to find the real story there. and they took care of her, and all they did is farm, and they continued to buy every farm. When a farm would come up for sale, they just needed more graze land. They had animals. They grew hay and barley and safflower, and just they turned fields, whatever was the commodity was hot, whatever they can get money for. But they were so great. They donated all their money throughout their whole life to charity. And then when they died, they gave it all away because they had no heirs. And so when I read about him, when I heard about him, I bought the land literally from the Booker Trust. It had sat vacant for years, and Rod Weeby and a couple of the old great farmers used to just farm it. They were allowed to per the trust. And so I bought it, and I thought so much of the story that I wanted to name, even though they didn't drink, they weren't drinkers, and they never had grapes. I thought it would be such an honor to honor their name and keep it alive, because they were becoming forgotten about. That generation was dying off. And so I wanted to make sure that people knew what they did for the community to make the community so strong. And in that sense, people like the winemakers I've mentioned to you that I'm friends with, we take that very serious in our philanthropic endeavors with Must Charities, with all the things we do with scholarships for farm workers' kids. We're very big into putting back into Paso, and we lean into it. It's not like chump change. We all give a large portion of what we make right back into the community.
Nice. So you were working, we know you're working with Justin Smith, but let's talk a little bit about your friend Stephan Asseo, because he's a French winemaker. He said Bordeaux trained. Tell people a little bit about him, and then and kind of what he brought to Paso, and why so many people. Well, a lot of the big domains, they went up to Napa. They got their ass stomped in the fucking Judgment Pass. Like, okay, let's take advantage, and they bought a property in Napa. Why did Stephan come to Paso Robles, and kind of like how did he influence you, man?
The adventure. First time I got in a car with him, a truck, me and Justin picked him up, and he was smoking a fucking cigarette, and he rolled up all the windows so the cigarette didn't get blown out.
Right, he was old school.
It
was like being a kid in the 70s.
Like wearing dolphin shorts and like a tank top. He was very French, and but formally trained, Bordelais, and he just got tired of that shit. This Stephan has lived 9 lives. This is a guy that sails, that he's done he's done his share of Pink Floyd and Zeppelin concerts and Confused
and all the accoutrements.
Yeah, and all the accoutrements that go along with that. Stephan's lived 9 lives, and he just got tired of that bullshit, being told what he can grow, how to grow it, what his yield could be, just all this bullshit. And said, fuck that. So we went touring, and he found Paso, and he almost lost it. He got into some trouble that wasn't his fault, and bailed it out and became a legend. Anybody that's ever met him, the guy is, he's one of I consider him an extraordinarily close friend. We travel together. He's now retired. He just consults for LaVentura. His daughter runs it, but he's a freak, and he's a freak winemaker. So he was our go-to. All of us kind of went to him because he had a freakish palate. Oddly enough, can't taste TCA. But he had a freakish palate for very Michel Rolland-like. And I think what ended up becoming, he taught me the 1% margins. Like, he taught me just drinking enough and paying enough attention. He could taste a wine and say, you need 2% more of this or 0.5% more of this. That became kind of my specialty. Like, I wasn't as sophisticated as all the other winemakers. I just worked very hard. I hired a lot of scientists so I could try to catch up, but I became a 1%er. Like, I could go into a blending and say, yeah, you need, one more barrel or a half a barrel of Grenache is going to make this wine. At least to my palate. Right. And that very subjective wine is, right? So one man's trash becomes another man's treasure. But that was the greatness of Stephan and his ability to become everyone's friend. Couldn't remember anyone's name, which is why he just, he would get so confused when I would call him. And then when he'd call me, Eric, this is Stephan, you know me, your favorite neighbor. Like, hey, you're the only fucking French guy I know. You don't have to remind me every time. And that's how I came up with my favorite neighbor. But Stephan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna okay.
And
I love
he was just a legend. You know, at 2 a.m, he'd be on a table and he'd pick up a Magnum and just start dousing it. You know, you didn't want to lock horns with him because he didn't care what the next day was going to feel like. He lived in the moment.
Oh my God, one of those guys. That's really cool. So he's one of those guys like. So you mentioned like Roland. He does a lot of work in Napa. But the people who know like the blenders, like, have you had any work with? I know Justin works with Philippe a little bit. Like, and I've heard Philippe is that guy who's like he'll just come in and be like, it should be 36% this, 30% blah 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 blah.
Yeah, but that like I just said, that's to Philippe's palate,
Right.
and that's why I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, and I said, you know, when I say
Right, for your
I
palate.
think my specialty is that I can call that out.
But I mean, to that point though, that I mean, and sorry, but like Jeb just did a great post with his top 100 wines. He's like, he told me the role of the critic is just to, like, but you don't have to like what he likes. He's just analyzing the wines, right? But like I think our palate's kind of, I like wines that you like, you know what I mean? But there's certain people like, but I can't imagine what it's like to like when you see shit like this, like who the fuck decided it needed 9% Counoise?
Because when you're tasting through it,
and 9% of Counoise, why the fuck? Why that grape?
Because when you're tasting through it, you have an idea. There's not a winemaker in the world that doesn't have an idea of that particular wine he's blending and where you want to go.
Okay.
And so Philippe has his idea, and I've
Right.
done a lot of drinking with Philippe. Was at one point going to do a wine with him, but the whole oversee it just gets hard.
Well, I know my buddies up in Sonoma did that, and he doesn't speak good English. Like they literally, Phil Couturier did a wine with him.
Yeah, Phil and Tony Biaggi and those guys that lasted. It's hard.
Yeah, and they had to have someone translate, and then like
it gets rough.
It's a bit much.
It's a bit much. So I don't do it with other winemakers. I love my friends. We always talk about it. It's just easier because the other thing is what happens when he wants a little bit more Grenache and you want a little bit more Counoise, or he wants more Syrah. So
needs more cowbell.
When you ask that question, it's you have in mind. So I know what I want Oblier to be like. I know what I want Fracture to be like.
Right.
Justin Smith knows what he wants specific SKUs to be like. Or they just say, hey, it's whatever this block is, that's going in the wine. And that just so happens to be mostly Syrah, but then there's a little bit of Grenache next to it. It's all going in. That makes your job easy. It's when you have a vision of what you want your wine to be, and as you start blending, you got runners. I used to do it out of every barrel, and now I just got it's just, you know, the Tasmanian devil. I'm like, we have 5 guys running. Like, no, we don't want any wood. Give me some Syrah with no wood on it. We want something a little riper, maybe more acid. So we get on VinTrace on our phone and we look up the most acidic barrels real quick. Makes it a lot easier. In the old days, you had to just go through every barrel. Laborious. Blending took months for me. Months. I would finish a wine in maybe 2 weeks because I had to taste through so many barrels and I didn't have the data. Now I have all this data plugged into my phone. And so I know, okay, I need a little more acid. This one's doesn't have the pop that I need. So yeah, blending is become pretty easy. In your mind, you know what you want. You'd see pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Now, are you going to make a wine going back to Jeb? You know, critics, it's one fucking person's palate, bro. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You love them when you get good scores and you hate them when you get bad scores. But Jeb's palate is so different than Josh Reynolds at Vinuous and Tony Galoni.
Well,
right?
Antonio's is completely different from Josh's, and I mean,
completely.
Woof.
And so what you have is you have some of the biggest critics in the world, and none of them jive.
Right.
And so it becomes difficult. And by the way, they're tasting a wine and spitting it and then going on to the next wine.
These are very good points because people, you know, I think when the Sam movies came out, a lot of people poo-poo on critics. But even a Sam, it's just one person's opinion.
That's it.
And what I tell people is you have to find someone who your palate aligns with their palate.
That's it.
Because listen, there are wines that get a 96 from a Josh or a Jeb, and they get 91 from the Wine Spectator. So then you're like, well, if something gets a 91 and it's a Rome from Wine Spectator, I might like it. You know what I mean?
Well, listen, all these guys were blowing up a certain region in 17, and I thought the wines were disgusting. They were grapey. The booze was bullshit on the back label. These were all, I ran some numbers. These were all 16.8, 17 alcohol wines. They taste like grape juice. They were so overripe and pruny and grapey. And I remember guys are bringing them to parties. Oh, this was the 100-pointer. This was the 100-pointer. And when I pointed it out, it was almost like getting in people's head. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody kind of likes Brett until they know what Brett is. It's a spoilage fucking yeast. And once you know what Brett is, it's just fucking disgusting.
It's disgusting.
It ruins everything. It makes everything taste alike. Yeah. And then you're like, I can't drink anything with Brett. Right. And so I started pointing it out to a couple Paso winemakers who were just like, oh, slobbering. And I remember at the end of the night, all those 100-pointers were only a quarter drinking.
Right.
And all these just super delicious, yummy wines were choked down, but these super high alcohol, grapey. But you got to remember the critic, in fairness to a guy, and Jeb Dunnick is one of the fucking coolest. Jeb and Josh Reynolds, two of the fucking coolest motherfuckers you could ever meet, right? And listen, these guys aren't stupid. They know fucking wine. But when you're tasting, their job sucks.
People don't even know. Like that's what people think it's bull. Like, oh, you taste wine for them. Like, well, you know how hard it is, like even being a wine buyer, to go to a tasting. There's 500 fucking wines. You got to get through as many as you can in 2 hours. It's not like you can't even really, in my opine, and I love both those. It's like is you got to enjoy a wine over a few hours or even a couple days to really understand it.
Jeb has told me on multiple occasions. I said, bro, you got to re-fucking score that last year's wine. You fucked it up. He goes, I make mistakes all the time. Right. Jeb looked me in the eye and said, he knows that. Yeah. Plus, he doesn't get the evolution of the bottle. He's tasting current release. And so they have a hard job. So you hit it on the nose in what I've told people. Your best critic may be Aaron Brooks at Parker. It may be Josh Reynolds or Anthony.
Find someone you like.
It may be. That's the person you stick with. Yeah. It may be your supermarket person or the wine shop next to you. I got a badass wine shop next to the Park Hyatt where I'm at, Oak and Steel. And these guys are good. And every time I ask them something, they steer me. It's like, whatever they say, I'm going because they now know my palate.
Exactly.
And yeah, they may have a miss, but that's the greatest critic in your life is that person that you follow and you're like, they're normally always on. That's the person you follow.
Yeah, exactly. So when you, after working with Stephan and Justin, and when you and Lisa was like, we're going to make our own wine, did you know you were going to be the winemaker originally?
I wasn't going to be. I was going to hire. And so my deal was Stephan was the guy.
Okay. And
so he made the what was called the Remnant. It was going to be a Bordeaux, but I didn't like it enough. I thought it was too tannic. I thought it was a little herbaceous, which was odd because it was heavy amount of Cab Franc in it, which is Cab Franc's just kind of herbaceous.
Yeah.
And Justin was going to make the Rhones, and then Justin kept telling me, and so did Stephan, trust me, you're going to make the wine. Because all I did is farm in those days. Mm-hmm. I knew how to make wine. I followed those guys. I worked every harvest with them. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, after 1 year, it became clear to me that I needed to make the wine that I wanted to make. Everybody has that path, and it's not a disrespectful path. Those two were the greatest mentors in the world. I was with Justin at his beautiful, beautiful property, a new property, cooler climate, just a badass place. Drinking champagne the other night. I owe everything to those two guys. But I really wanted to make a wine in my style.
Yeah.
And those two will be the first to tell you, hey, you got to put your stamp on it. And they really forged a way with both showing me the importance of farming and really almost the unimportance of winemaking. I don't mean to bash it, but I could teach a monkey to make wine. Farming is the difficult part. Choosing the right site, the right spacing, the perfect dapple sunlight, the perfect canopy management. That's the gig. And both those cats taught me that from day one. Once it gets in the winery, just don't fuck it up, man. Just, don't be heavy-handed and grapefruit is, it just don't screw it up.
You've actually, let me back it up. So how'd you feel on your first release? Like what's it like to release your first wine, man?
It was pretty cool, and in those days, like a 95 or a 96 was 100 points. They didn't. No one gave.
Yeah, no one gave
100 points.
Right.
And I remember Parker had tasted my wines, and they were just on some random local guy put up a shopping cart for me to be able to sell my wine. And I didn't have a list yet or anything, and Parker gave my Ripper and Fracture, I think, a 95. And that year, that was the highest scoring Grenache, I think, maybe in the state. Like, it was fuck. And the next morning I woke up, I'm like, hey, Lisa, I think something's wrong with the website. It's
got all these
showing
fucking
there's no
like-
wine left, And so it was pretty cool. But in hindsight, that wine was so fucking delicious that year. But, man, there was so much booze in that wine. That wine was, in fact, that wine was 17, so we had to backblend some Syrah just to bring it down to like 16.1. And that wine was like dragon fire, but it was so gorgeous. It was a severe drought, very hot year, extremely hot. And Justin had me wait to pick. Everyone else panicked and picked early. And the wines were so debaucherous. But, they didn't age great. Yeah. I'm not walking into a party with a bunch of friends and bopping those fucking old fives. I'm not going to lie to you, man. Might have had a little elevated VA as well to go along with, They were bone-ass dry. How I got them bone-ass dry, I don't know at those alcohol levels. But, it felt incredible. Yeah. And I learned so much. My first 5-6 releases were that way. They were so great year one, but I didn't care about VA.
Right.
I'm not afraid to admit any of this shit. I've made more mistakes winemaking than I care. You still do every year. I've never made a wine that I'm like, oh, it's banging. I still pick out flaws with every wine. Like, yeah, I probably did this or that. There's rarely a wine that I make, if ever, that I say, that was what I was looking for. The 2011 Ripper was the one that I say, and I just poured it at a dinner the other night, and it was the wine of the night with the customers. I didn't put anything in anybody's head, and I submitted that wine like 3 times to Jeb. I continue to submit it. Saying, you fucked this up. He continues to give that thing like a 93 or something like that. I'm like, bro, you are missing the goddamn mark on this thing. And no, every year. In fact, he might have downgraded it. I don't fucking know. But
shit, we're gonna have that. I'm gonna come out for HDR. Make sure we have some of that. Yeah,
but you make so many mistakes. In those early years, I made a lot of mistakes, and but it was the Wild West, man. It was in Paso. Is Justin? We thought what we thought then. We're so much more refined now. We're so much like we don't make just the dumbass kid mistakes that we're gunslingers, man.
Yeah, so that's how you got the reputation. You were called the Relentless Experimenter. It was just the Wild West in Paso, right? Just the ability to just
age shit for 5 years, 6 years, leave it in a tank on stems for 2 years. Hey, let's see what happens here. Russell Fromm from Herman Story, the same way, man. That dude was doing stuff that he should have been put in jail for,
Yeah, I would suspect some of his wines are probably like 20% alcohol.
He don't care.
He don't give a fuck.
He makes delicious fucking juice, him and his wife, Velia.
Oh, DeSparta. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're... Shit.
It's a great couple. 2 more characters of Paso, though. Two more people that came in with not a pot to piss in and, created this cult following that's almost religious in its fervor. And, they created such a great life with just making delicious wines.
Yeah, let's talk about cult status. How does one get cult status?
That's a douchey term. I don't fucking know. I wouldn't call it cult status. I just call it a following. The word fucking cult, is a little bit much for me, but I'd say a following, right?
Jim Jones had a following.
Yeah.
I mean,
you see how that ended,
I know, right?
Marjorie Gortner, who I talked about.
Oh, my God. If you could put some... Never mind. I don't want to go there. But if you put some poison in some Paso wine, we'd have way more people than James now.
Yeah, Paso's on fire because of that reason. The wines coming out are so badass. And the way you get a following is you just you don't bullshit. You stay relentless. I've always woke up every morning and said, how do I learn today? How do I get better today? And then I tell myself, be great today. Those kind of three things always resonate. How am I going to learn something new? How am I going to get better? Never be the smartest guy in the room and learn. And so my winemaking style is always, I'm never afraid to admit it. All these guys, like when I had Tony Biaggi consulting, when I first launched the My Favorite Neighbor project, I had Benoit Tuquet, really was so inspirational for me from Rome. And then I actually paid Tony. It was like, people were asking, why are you having other winemakers? It's like, oh, so you got all the motherfucking answers, huh? Well, good. You don't need to ask any questions then. Fantastic. Since I don't, I got a guy with 30 vintages under his belt. I had Stephan with 35 vintages under his belt. Like, I'm not one of those cats when I get into a situation. When me and my team of Pete and Kyle are kind of threesome, when we have a question, and, Pete's a formally trained chemist. Well, this is why. I'm like, Pete, I don't want you to back in an equation of how to figure this out. Let's get Dr. Zucklin on the line from Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But let's also call Andy Erickson, call Jordan Fiorentini over at Epic. Let's call all of our friends and find out who's been in this situation. We don't need to recreate no damn wheel. Somebody's experienced what we're experiencing. Let's find out what they did. And don't be so proud. And that, I love doing that. Most winemakers are so afraid to pick up that phone. They think they know it all. They are so afraid to ask that question. I'm never afraid. I don't care if it makes me weak. I want to know from somebody that went through, because wine throws you a new curve it's Mother Nature.
I mean, to your point though, that's one thing Tony Robbins always said. It's called modeling. There's someone, listen, there's nothing new under the sun. Somebody's had a stuck fermentation someone has already gone through that shit. So why would you try and fucking you want to figure it out? Just fucking call someone who figured it out already.
In 15, I must have called 50 people. And by the way, none of them were calling each other. They're like, we're moving up the bottling date. And of course, we're going to use our maximum back blend from the 16. But they were all too proud. Now, there are those little factions, but a lot of the wine countries that are wealthy, the owners don't want the winemakers sharing shit.
Yeah, because they're all on that old.
They think there's something proprietary.
Right,
It's like, bitch, there ain't nothing proprietary.
Bullshit. Exactly.
Yeah, I got some news for you.
Yeah.
There ain't shit proprietary. But in Paso, we share a lot. Like the kids, when I get out of here today, I got a young guy. He said, can you give me an hour? I want to learn a little bit more about growth and what you're doing, how you did Harvey and Harriet, My Favorite Neighbor. I had another young kid last week do the same thing, gave him an hour. I get the younger guys by on a weekly basis.
You talked to Dylan Peckinborough? You must know those kids.
Oh, those two are fucking stars.
Fucking 96 points out the gate.
Yeah, and the wines are fucking legit.
The wines are delicious.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to age, but they're delicious. And I don't give a shit about aging wines. I'm going to die, so I'm going to drink my fucking wine. Just so
you don't want new daddy hitting that.
No,
and that's what happens.
No, exactly.
You go, everything you leave behind.
Exactly.
Some dude with a bigger chest than you, a smaller belly.
Yep. Which would be a six-pack. Because my belly ain't that big. But anyway, let's talk about My Favorite Neighbor, man, because that's come up. I love that. So, fucking My Favorite Neighbor, how did you come up with the name, and what's the story behind that project, man?
So I saw all these sugar wines scaling, and making all this money, and it just pissed me off. And then on the other end, I saw a lot of my buddies up north making cabs for $400, $500. They'd get a score, they'd raise it another $100. And I'm like, so I grew up broke. And so my deal was, why not, let's make a fucking wine for everybody. I never had this desire to make a 5 or 6. That's not to say I'm not going to do it.
Right.
But it just was never on my radar
right.
to make this wine like that. And then on the backside of that, I got all these wines putting 10 grams of Mega Purple and making all this sweet shit.
I know, and making money, man.
Oh, and cleaning up. These wines are dominating the by the glass.
Yep.
They're dominating the wine world. And I'm like, I'm going to make something unmanipulated. I'm going to force the farmers, not force because I have relationships with them, but I'm going to put a clause in the contract. I want the grapes organically farmed. I'm going to be in every ranch weekly, worrying about showing them about sprawl and canopy management and what direct sunlight does to cab. That's why Napa does so well, right? They get canopy, so they don't have a lot of direct exposure. That's why you don't get this overripe, overly grapey that we used to get in Paso, because we were all trying to grow Cabernet in pure calcareous shale or limestone, and we were getting 20-inch canopies, 6-inch to 20-inch canopies. Well, the grapes were getting smoked, and so you had overripe. So that's why I seeked out clay sites. But that's what spurred it on. I'm like, fuck this. I'm going to make a one of those kind of cult style, I guess, if you say, wines, but I'm going to charge $50 for it.
Yeah.
I ain't going to charge $250. And so that I had my favorite neighbor already. Everyone got a bottle if you were on the list. And I said, let's take my favorite neighbor and grow it. Let's scale it. Let's go lock up. And I locked up all the best sites, because all the other cats in that price range, they were on the deep east, and a lot of them were manipulating, so they didn't care where they got the fruit from.
Yeah, they just needed some grape juice to
That's it.
to work with.
And so I said, I want baller-ass sites. So I went to Anthony at Denner. I went to a guy named Mike Ferlotti at Gateway, which is just, I look at it from my vineyard, and it's mostly clay. It's the perfect Bordeaux site, although they do have one hill of Syrah that's absolute rocket fuel. And I went to David Parrish up in the Adelaide. I went to all these guys, and that had these awesome, more clay-driven sites that could get canopy, that could get hang time, and I could hang out to mid-October. Vineyard Drive, shit. I picked my stuff at Lopi, which is next to Denner, and Denner, I picked that shit almost November 1st at like 23 bricks, 22 and a half bricks. I'm just waiting for the acid. I'd pick it, at 20 bricks, but the acid's always, there's so much acid. So that was the project, to make a banging ass opulent wine. And then I realized, holy shit, 50 is still too much money for Americans. Like, that's
Yeah. I mean, like, you can't get, it's a lot.
It's a lot of money for a Monday
yeah.
night, Tuesday night.
Yep.
It's a lot of money for a Friday night.
Yep.
And so that then spawned another idea, Harvey and Harriet, my mom and dad, and the picture of them on a tightrope, and the abyss below, with divorce, with kids doing drugs, growing weed, girls getting pregnant. I mean, my family was great, but boy, they were all black sheep. We were all a fucking problem. And
this is America.
So I wanted a $30 wine that I still make the farmer's farm organically, that I could grow to get even in the hands of more people. And so thus Harvey and Harriet. So a little blacker fruit, a lot of Syrah and Malbec in that. And then my favorite neighbor, just a little bit more of an opulent style, a bigger pop of acid. And, some people like the one more than the other, and it's just a coin toss, but both clean wines, dry wines, no fucking sugar, no Coca-Cola.
Yeah. You know what, man? We're gonna do like I'm gonna get one of my New York burger guys to come out. We're gonna do a smash burger pop-up doing HDR at Booker. We're gonna just have fucking just burgers and fucking my favorite neighbor and Harriet.
Let's take it a step further. Let's do a blind, which I do all the time. Let's get a bunch of cats in a row that know wine. Not hoity-toity. I'm not talking about a song that fucking has to go through a class to know if it's from DRC or the vineyard next door.
Right.
Regular people, regular wine drinkers that just love wine, and brown bag.
All right, so we'll do brown bag and burgers.
Done.
You guys heard it here.
You and him stay in the guest house, and
yeah, I'm gonna hook that up, because I was talking to Vicky. I'm going to do some HDR, so this is perfect. You're very passionate about organic farming, and I know Booker's been certified. What is the advantage? And like you said, everybody you're working with on these new projects. What's the advantage in your mind, and how does that translate in the bottle?
Well, I don't make them get certified. I didn't want to get certified because I don't like to be a part of a cult or a group. Yeah. But Chris Cherry convinced me that they're pretty cool, and that there's it's not a cult, and that they just help you manage and get there, look at all your labels. And so the CCOF was great. So finally, after farming organically all those years, we actually, Chris really pushed me. He's like, bro, it means a lot. Like, you need to be one of the leaders. Get out there. Like, quit bullshitting. I won't certify my biodynamics just because I think that organization is a pay-to-play cult.
It's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah,
so
it's
you
a little
understand
cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
biodynamics.
But I use those principles.
Yeah,
We farm
well, exactly. You don't
principles.
listen. You exactly
I do the preps.
There you go. Yeah.
And we do look at the lunar calendar and make decisions based on that. And but I just think, listen, I got 2 glasses of wine here. Let's use the apples, right? I got 2 apples. I urinated on one of them, and I didn't urinate on the other one. Which one do you want?
I'm gonna go with the one without your urine.
Okay, yeah. Pretty easy decision, right?
Yeah.
So why, when we shop for food and we're in the food system, wouldn't we concern ourselves with something with a skull and a fucking crossbones on the back of it that was just applied, and then we're supposed to be convinced that the fruit or the stems don't respirate and breathe in that? I mean, you know that study they've done it. They do it all the time, where they go to organic vineyards and they find still trace amounts of Roundup because of drift.
Right.
Now, every chemical company is going to sit here and try to tell me, oh, no. It's gone within the reentry period. And, you know, within 3 days, it's washed off. It's this, it's that. It's like, really? Because they're still proving every year, and they're finding Roundup, trace amounts of Roundup in organic vineyards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, they aren't near anything, but because of drift. So don't tell me the shit you spray. And so, yeah, that's the way I eat. It's the way I live my life. I care about what goes in my body. And more importantly, at the winery, I care about what goes in the consumer's body. If I'm not going to put it in my body, why would I think I could put it in theirs? So, yeah, man, fuck that.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. So, you know, I had the pleasure of visiting Booker when I was in Paso Robles back in April, man. Badass state-of-the-art visitor experience. You've mentioned this with your wine, but like there is a very specific vision when someone comes to visit Booker. Like, how did you create that vision?
Well, I created it because I lived in a fucking modular and I dreamed every night, you know?
Okay.
I lived in a triple wide, actually.
Okay.
Stephan lived in like a single wide. I mean, his was a rat trap. Mine was at least had 3 pieces. And we had a kitchen for like
He's
2
like, you know, I moved here from Newport Beach. I have standards, bro.
We put a kitchen on ours.
Exactly.
That wasn't in the living room, which, you know, in those days everything was segmented. Now everybody's kitchen is a part of their kind of great room. But I just used to dream about this, really putting Paso in a great light. And when my 2 mentors, Justin and Stephan, stepped up their game and built these state-of-the-art facilities, I just felt almost the pressure to say, yeah, man, let's show Paso in a different light, that it doesn't have to always be dirty barns, and that's the charm of Paso, but that there can be some of these unreal experiences. So I always had a vision that on that hill by the winery, there would be an indoor-outdoor facility, which is why the pocket doors disappear, that you could literally be tasting wine and take 2 steps and grab a cluster and eat it. So you were really having a wine and a grape experience. It wasn't just some hoity-toity with a bunch of tchotchke paintings and, you know, gold leaf. And if you notice, it's very simple. It's just simply beautiful, but it's clean.
It's clean.
So the architect is from Mexico City, Juan Carlos Fernandez, Signum Architects out of Napa. When I saw his work, I'm like, this is my guy. But I'd always had a vision, and I just turned it over to him and my wife. And what they designed, as you know now, has been on Architectural Digest. It's been in magazines around the world. It's unreal for its simplicity. And then, of course, right below it, you get in an elevator and you go down into the fucking cave. But so I just had a vision. I gave it to them, and they really executed it beyond where I could have ever imagined. And I wanted people, when they pull down the street, literally to hear music. So I got speakers as you're pulling down the street. You can hear music blaring. I want, when you pull in those gates, for you to just breathe and say, this is my time. It's my day. And that's why I hire all the Cal Poly kids. I don't have a bunch of overtrained somms, a bunch of super buttoned up. I got a bunch of kids. But they know their shit, but they're kids.
Yeah.
Because especially for people with kids, when you see another kid at your kid's age, like in the college age, because a lot of our visitors are still in that age where they're 50, and so they got these kids in college. they can always picture Johnny or Melissa. Oh, Johnny could have worked here, and it puts a smile on their face. And all I want to do is make people smile. You're going to make your decision on the wine. We don't talk about the scores. We don't talk about accolades. Nowhere. It's not shown anywhere. All you get is a gorgeous smiling face of, well, until that damn mask mandate came back yesterday. So now you'll see a smiling mask, but you'll see eyebrows and eyes. And just someone happy. They're not going to try to tell you how it was fermented. You need that. They give out my number there, literally.
Wow.
And we tell them all that. But really, it's just about their day and the wine and the history of Paso and the story. And we want them to sit there and drink and maybe start rubbing each other's legs. And, it's their anniversary or it's their special weekend. We want them to be in the pocket, man.
Yeah. I love that.
Always great tunes. There's record players
I know.
everywhere.
Fucking
Always great
listen,
tunes,
I
man.
was like, shit, this is my guy when I came up there.
Khruangbin, Bon Iver,
Yeah.
Floyd, the Beatles, Dylan, but then anything that's coming down that's new, that gets hit. So pretty diverse. A lot of old jazz, a lot of Billie Holiday, and Aretha. But then to modern day, you might hear Lord Huron spinning or Dirty Heads, who are not new, by the way.
Where was the whose idea for the glass of Billicart rosé when you come in the door?
Me, man. I want you to walk in, and I want you to, and that's only for the members experience. You got to be on the list. Everybody else just gets rosé.
See how I threw you like now people can get in your list, man.
Well, they are.
I got a glass of Billicart rosé, but I am a black wine guy.
And by the way, you needed.
I
that.
didn't even
You
need
needed that like
like
you
a
needed to
whole
be stapled.
fucking hole in my head.
Like you needed to be stapled. You
Right.
came in banged up.
And we drank some more.
Oh God, we powered through, and then we went to dinner.
And then we
that
went to
night.
dinner,
Yeah, I was banged up.
which you brought the Tempranillo, which I had never had your Tempranillo. And you brought some Ripper. And then wine of the night, Greg Brewer's like 2010 Chardonnay. That shit was
Delicious.
what the fuck?
It was.
People talk bullshit about California Chardonnay.
Oh no.
No.
And in that area, we buy fruit for our new Chard project. My favorite neighbor Blanc. The Chard from there is dope. I mean, it is just delicious because it's not over the top. It still has great acidity.
Where are you buying the
It
Chardonnay?
has
Down in
the-
Santa Barbara County? or-
Santa Barbara
Okay.
and Edna Valley.
Yeah, Edna Valley's great.
Oh, it's
So
phenomenal.
cool.
Tally's done a great job for
Oh my God,
years with
Brian's awesome.
Rosemary's
Yeah.
and Rincon and haven't got a bunch of
I tell people that Tally is another one, and fucking Brian Babcock.
oh fuck.
I mean, fucking. I don't want to. I
The
don't want
vineyard
to.
I bought from was because I having Brian's wine, and they said this fruit goes to Brian.
Yeah,
And I'm like, sell me whatever he's not
yeah.
buying.
I mean, like a lot of people have come up in Santa Barbara, blah blah blah. They're making wine. They've come from the restaurants. That's all I'm going to say about it. But there's fucking Brian Babcock.
Yeah.
Okay, was in the Santa Rita Hills before it was Santa Rita Hills.
He's one of the legit ones. Santa Barbara gets a knock because the winemakers sometimes aren't the coolest. They fight each other. They're aristocrats
Yeah,
because they come
yeah.
from Somme and
Yeah,
they
or
come
they
from a higher
LA or some
yeah, they
shit.
come from a higher level. But Greg, shit,
Greg's
he
fucking,
is the man.
He is the man.
And-
And Sonia makes beautiful wines. Love her. I love Sonia's
Yeah,
wine. She makes
that
good
was
wine.
great having those two at dinner.
Yeah,
They are
that
just
was a-
so
that was a
authentic
solid
and legit,
dinner.
and they apologize for nothing for what they do.
No.
Greg's always been the same, unapologetic. This is what I do. You don't fucking like it, don't buy it.
Now, you have a podcast. Tell my listeners about your podcast.
Popping corks. I do it when I want to. See, you're on 54. I'm probably on 11. I've had some NFL guys. I've had some Major League Baseball players.
And then he had me, which was really cool. He fucking called me. He got my number. He fucking called me. Is like, listen, I love your shit, man. I want, this is what we do. Yeah. Like,
Well, you were just serious. I mean, it's real to you. To me, I hate to do shit when it's not real. But for me, I was having to do everything. I was a one-man show. And I'm a dad. And I'm making wine and farming. So then all of a sudden, I got to find the guest. I got to arrange everything. man, I don't know shit about shit. I had the iHeart folks with my gal Beata and her husband, but that was it. And so I do them kind of when it's convenient. I got Greg, the founder of Corvin, coming up. I'm going to reach back out to my guy.
Is he going to come into the Cove?
Yeah, he's coming in. Yeah, he's coming, staying in the guest house. And so I'll ramp it back up. But I had Jock Peterson, the Pearl guy from the Braves when he was a Dodger. Him and Austin Barnes, two great friends. I've had Boomer, David Wells, who's a fucking.
Oh, I know. I used to hang with Wells.
Oh, Wells.
In the late 90s.
You better have a hollow leg and some time.
Yeah. Because he used to go to Dorian's, and my boy Rob was a bouncer at Dorian's, and they would all come in. Dave, Chili Davis.
Chili's my man. Chili. I'll get Chili on.
Yeah.
Chili, I'll get Chili out. I just met Chili, and he calls me the next day. He goes, "E, we got to hang." I'm like, fuck, Chili days. When do you need me to drive there? Where are you at right now? So Chili, I'll get Chili on. I'll get Brett Saberhagen, who's become a good friend.
Oh, wow.
And as a big wine guy, Chili's a huge wine cat, always has been. Looking for property in Napa, I'm going to sway that to Paso. But yeah, I don't have what you have. You are a pro at it. And for me, it got embarrassing because first of all, I banged up. By the time we started rolling the tape, everyone was fucked up.
I'm gonna just be honest, man. I was like banged up when I came into the studio. I was hot. I came in with a hot mic, talking about my anatomy and ways I
took care of you, though, man. That guy calls me and says, "We should do some editing here. What do you think?" I said, "You feel free, Barry. You're a pro."
I mean, literally. This is a pro tip. When you go to Paso Robles, just make sure you got an Uber or a driver because the wines, let's just say they average 15% alcohol. Let's just say they average that. And it's not experience for most people. And everyone's generous.
By the way, Chateau Neuf de Pop averages 16.
Well, I know that, right?
But they don't say it. And Napa's all 15.
Oh, and Napa's all 15.
15.
I know. No, this. You're so true. And I remember Philippe once said, people don't even understand how hard Rhone shit, particularly Grenache, when you talked about that 2011. Like, Philippe can be, Australian, but he's like, okay, so you're picking for ripeness. He said, but in 5 hours, it can go from 15% alcohol to 18% alcohol. Like, it's such a short window. When you're picking Grenache.
But slow your fucking roll, my guy, saying when you go to Paso. Nobody put a gun to your head and told you to have 7 bottles. You didn't have to taste every barrel at Saxum.
You slow your roll. Now you didn't have to taste every barrel. First of all, you roll up to Saxum.
And you could have spit.
And adversely, it says no visitors, and you got the gate code, you're not going to fucking spit, okay? Nobody spits at Saxum.
And then after that, you didn't have to go visit Ledge and probably Turtle Rock with Donnie Burns.
I think... Did I do? And I'm trying to remember. Did I do Saxum then Turtle Rock? I think I did.
He's acting like they had him tied down.
I'm not saying. I'm a professional. I'm just trying to help people out, man. I'm not saying. I know what I did. I was like, and I told my wife, I was like, "Oh, we're not spitting. This is Saxum." I said, "We're from the rest of the day. We're drinking." All right, like you need to understand.
I got a funny story that one didn't make the cutting. It landed on the cutting floor. It was a bunch of very high-profile athletic directors who I'm very good friends with. And we drank all day up at the house by the pool, and their wives are floating on rafts. We're shaking cocktails. They're living life. It's one of them's birthday party, and ADs are buttoned up dudes, but they tear it up. And unfortunately, they was tore up from the floor up. And we get in there, and they start saying things that an AD cannot say. I never made it.
Yeah.
My buddy called me and goes, "You like these guys, right?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, I don't know if we're gonna be able to make 10 minutes out of this or 5 minutes, but these guys run universities pretty much." So I said, "Flush it." And by the way, burn it.
That's so funny.
And so my podcast, people say things like, go to the Boomer Wells one, which is messed up on Zoom. He's at his hunting ranch in Michigan. Boomer probably should have walked some of that stuff back, but that's Boomer. And if you know Boomer, he talks about him and Coney, and he might have wanted to get some authorization from old David Cohn because he said some things that Coney probably doesn't need out there. But
Well, that's why you said to me, you're like, this is like it's 12 o'clock at night. We just smoked a blunt and we've been drinking all day. And I was like, okay, so this is what I would say to you. And I remember then we were over at the castle and we were talking, and you're like, bro, you need to get an HR person. If you're gonna get this, you're gonna need an HR person, bro.
well, that's what popping corks is. It's the shit that you and the three of us would chill, and we would talk about once we pop corks, whether they're bourbon corks, whether it's Firestone Walker's Badass Anniversary cork beer, or whether it's wine corks. It's the shit we would talk about if you're by a fireplace and there's no holds, whether it's you want to go political, you want to talk diversity and culture, whatever we're going to talk about. And sometimes, unfortunately, when you started 5 hours before the podcast, you're going to say some shit.
Mean, it's not unfortunate. I just think it's unfortunate that we're in positions where we don't want to capture the rawness, but the conversation was hot, though. The conversation was dope.
Oh, we should have just let it roll.
I know.
But now we're in a situation where you say something and you've offended everybody.
Exactly.
Like with comedians.
Like with Chappelle. Listen,
you can't even be comedians.
I love the fact, like, so many people come on and still, like, it's still Chappelle, right? Because it's a fucking joke, motherfucker. Like, that was the comedian's role, was to point out everything in society.
Blacks, whites, Jews.
Lenny Bruce would be canceled if he were alive right now. You know what I mean? Like, come on. So
they were the last people with no rules, right?
Exactly.
We all gave them a pass because why? Because they tore everybody out.
Exactly. Tore everybody out.
And now
George Carlin. Oh, my God. Could you imagine George Carlin trying to be a comedian nowadays?
Couldn't do it. Richard Pryor?
But Richard Pryor is like, they just wouldn't give a fuck. So good thing.
Well, Chappelle don't.
I know, and that's why people still love Chappelle. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna laugh, man. It's a joke. So you have just you have sold actually Booker, but you're the managing director. So talk about the acquisition and what's next. What's coming up for you, man?
Well, that was my closing dinner last night. And I wasn't buying.
I said, what could he be in New York for? It must be they're signing the papers.
People were squirming. They had already signed, but they were uncomfortable. But my guy is the best, and my team is the best. So a lot of people were pretty freaked out at first, but I'm a different dude. I don't believe in generational wealth. I don't believe in leaving it. And I don't mind if you do that. For me, I grew up so poor, I want my kids to carve their own path in life. I've never seen, you show me a fucking kid that grew up with an unlimited wallet, and I'll show you strippers, cocaine, and private planes. And I'll show you shenanigans and no good, and fucked up kids in rehab. So it was never going to be allowed.
Spendthrift clauses, because you can only give your kid $5 million a year.
$5
million every 3 years, and they're gonna they burn it.
Burn it.
I know. I have friends. I know people. I live in Santa Barbara.
That shit was never going to happen for me.
Burn it.
And so I thought I would probably go into my 80s making wine and doing it. And a guy named Bill Newlands, who to me is one of the most genuine people I know, and one of the best CEOs in America, he started flirting with me. He's a Syrah guy. And his favorite Syrah happened to be Fracture. And so he invited me one time to his house. He was on my list, and he invited me to his house. He said, hey, if you're ever in Chicago and something, like, fuck yeah, I'm going to fucking roll out. I go to his house. He's a dad. He's got 3 kids. He goes, I'll be right back. I got to just run right around the corner and pick the kids up from baseball practice. I'm like, this guy's serious. And by the way, he's going to leave me with his cellar. I'm going to start nailing shit. I'm looking in there. There's Schrader. There's Sinequanon. And there's a bunch of white bergs. I'm like, I'm going to hit this thing. And so he started flirting with me. And then next thing you know, he hires this guy named Robert Hansen, who ran American Eagle Outfitters, a luxury guy. Was very high up at Levi Strauss. He was the CEO of John Hardy Designs. So I met him and I said, holy shit. And Bill told me, I says, man, no way. A company like you guys would ruin my brand. And he goes, I don't think you understand. We're selling all the bottom stuff to Gallo. I want my legacy. The Sands brothers are in, the exec board's in. I want my legacy to be fine wine. Like, You look what's in my cellar. And so I still wasn't sure, but then when I met Hansen and he gave me the for sure vision, I'm like, this could work. And so we took baby steps. It took a while. I needed a year to get to know him. And then I gave him a piece.
Yeah.
And for 2 years, they were the best partner. Like they left me alone. I made the wine. They didn't question shit. All they did is when it was done, they sent trucks to pick it up and they sold it. And Robert said, we're not going to let any more discounters get it. It's going DTC, and the stuff that Harvey and Eric, my favorite neighbor, is going into the right spots. We're going to put it in high-end bottle shops and restaurants. Restaurants obviously took a hit, so we had to shift a little bit during COVID.
Right.
But he goes, we're going to protect the brand. And for 2 years, Bill would fly out and we wouldn't talk business. Like the dude would come stay for 3 or 4 days with his wife and kids, and we'd never talk business. Like, dude, are we going to talk biz at all? He goes, no, we trust you. And so over 2 years, I'm like, holy shit. So I called Thomas Rivers Brown up at Schrader, and I said, Thomas, did they leave you alone? He goes, dude, they don't talk to me at all. Like, I run the show.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I go, bro, for 2 years, they don't tell me anything. Oh, and by the way, I made one demand. You guys got to go organic. The next day, they made an announcement in the company that they are switching Tokalon to organic farming, and they did it. And now I've hooked him up with Carlo Mondavi and his Monarch tractor, electric tractors, and they're like all in. What do we got to do? So they walked the walk. They didn't just talk. And so for 2 years, they left me alone. And so then they called me back and said, you know, we think the sales team will be better if they own it, because joint ventures, they don't get motivated enough. They love you, but we're going to leave you alone. We're not going to park anybody there. I says, I need one person parked occasionally, and that's a general manager. And so they gave me a star out of New York who was in Napa running brands, and he had worked in distribution. He's a freak, Jeff Mizell. And so I said, that's all I need. We don't need, and I'd like an operations guy as we grow, but these two only visit once a quarter, once a month. And so it was like, let me get this straight. You're going to write me a check for the full amount. I'm going to run the brand. You're going to pay me as an independent contractor to do so. I still run it, make the decisions. Where the fuck do I sign this thing at? where the fuck do I sign this thing at? They've been great. And their M&A team is only looking at the best shit now. There's some shit coming down the pike that's baller. We already know. Listen, they gave Andy Erickson the reins at Tokalon Wine Company. Yeah. And they're letting Andy have his plot there. Right. And Thomas has his plot in Tokalon for Schrader and Double Diamond. They've done it. They're reforming. They're reshaping Mondavi. I'm not going to say that the company never made mistakes, because they did, because they were a beer company, right? They have Modelo, Corona, Pacifico. They are a beer company. But it wasn't until now that they said, we're a wine company. The only way we're going to do this right is by getting the best talent in the world and letting them be their identity, remembering why we bought them. So like these guys don't even check in on me. Yeah. And to the point where it kind of like I reach out to the guys, my team, and say like, hey man, are we all cool, man?
We good?
We good? Because I like this paycheck I'm finally getting. I never got a paycheck, man. I did expense everything in the company, but this paycheck thing is new to me. And so yeah, it is. And I ain't bullshitting, because I will be also the first to turn on them. Like, they know this, like a Doberman. But they have been unreal. They've become close friends. And again, everyone's listening and saying, oh man, he's just bullshit. I don't got to say shit. There's nothing in my contract. Like, I don't have to say anything. It's been legit. It's been a fun ride. I'm going to develop more projects with him, and pretty fired up, man.
That's fucking awesome. My man, Eric Easy Jensen, thank you for coming through. For all y'all who don't know, this was supposed to be an IG Live, and then this motherfucker's like, he's like, oh, I'll be back. I think I'll be back in time for our IG Live. Can we do it early? I'm like, if you're in New York, motherfucker, come on the podcast. And so he got banged up last night, drank some DRC, some baller shit, some Philip and that, out to a bar in Wall Street doing shots with all kinds of crazy people. My man, thank you so much for coming through. Love you, bro. We were instant homies. Tell everybody where they can find you, how they can be a part of what you're doing over at Booker.
Well, I love you guys and what you do. You know how I feel about it. This is not the most welcoming of businesses to both people of color and females. And we've made a big push to try to change that. And you're single-handedly making it cool and okay. And I want to bring you into this diversity deal that I started with Constellation, with Cal Poly, and bringing
Perfect. I was gonna talk to you about Constellation afterwards for season 4.
And bringing in to the schools this beautiful black winemaker from Kendall Jackson in Santa Barbara. She is not only strikingly gorgeous, but strikingly talented, strikingly eloquent, and she's just fucking smart. And she's going to go to high schools and start telling kids, hey, this can be a major for you.
Yeah.
So I want to bring you in on that. BookerWines.com, very simple. My favorite neighbor, myfavoriteneighbor.com. Check that. That'll lead you to anything you want to know about the wines, the list, visiting. And really, more importantly than going to those 2 sites, just check out Paso. I'm a Paso guy, man.
Yeah.
And I want the world to experience it, because once you go, you don't go back. Once you,
yeah, I know.
I can't say
that. Once the black wine guy went to Paso, he will always go back. Let's put it that way.
So it's Paso, man. It's just fucking so legit. So, anyways, thanks for having me on. I need a nap. I need to get a quick workout, because I got to hit this thing again tonight. I got my team at 5:15 at the Polo Club.
Shit. Everybody, Eric Jensen, until the next time, cheers to the Mavericks. He definitely qualifies. Philosopher, he's one of those, and we all are in our own way, and he's definitely a deep thinker, organic winemaker, and he's definitely a fucking wine drinker. It's your boy MJ. Peace.